In today's Cyberpunk 2077 video, we're going to be riding the Night City train and going over some potential cut transit content which was removed from Cyberpunk before it hit the shelves. My name's Mike.
And I'm Ryan.
You're watching Deconstructing the Game. Let's get to it. Many players in Cyberpunk 2077 will have noticed that there is a tram system running through the entire city and its different districts with different intersections and stations at ground level. Many of those stations have got fast travel points and some of them are even marked on the map, but not all of them are. In some versions of Cyberpunk in the previous state of the game, some of these station doors were accessible and just led into empty buildings, but since CDPR have been increasing their patch notes, those doors are no longer accessible, and we are left to wonder if those areas are going to be expanded on in the future. Some areas which are usually inaccessible by conventional means have vending machines on top, and it's just interesting that there happens to be a metro station nearby. Some of the glass buildings and catwalks in the area you see here are in other areas of the city and may well have been copied and pasted to make the city look a bit more lived in, but that doesn't explain why they would have put active vending machines up here on a platform looking area. That could just be me looking for stuff to hope for in the future, but there's other things like elevators that lead up to tram systems like Mega Building number 11 or V's apartment. It leads to platform number A, which in and of itself is pretty interesting considering there isn't actually a rail at platform level, and in fact that would only really work if there was an underslung carriage, so you would have a carriage that's hanging from a support beam on top and you would have a carriage on top of the monorail running in different directions, which would kind of eliminate the need for crossing points in the game. So maybe we'll see an underslung monorail system in the future, perhaps. Maybe we won't see any tram systems at all, but some of these stations are accessible on the minimap, and as I said, some of them are not. For example, this is a Charter Hill metro station, and it kind of looks like it's a subway, even though in this video I fast traveled from a metro station which was a monorail, and it would appear that we landed at a metro station which was a subway, so they could be integrated in some ways that haven't really been thought of yet. There's vending machines in some stations and even an interesting timer that says the next train will be in how many seconds. It happens to reset at 5 minutes, but what's even more interesting is that these actually have an NCART timetable name attached to them and they can be hacked. I've never seen anything like this before in Cyberpunk, so this could be unique to these metro stations that we might have in the future. And if you've seen any other of my videos, there are other metro stations in Charter Hill which have doors open. They just happen to open into a void of nothingness, and there are also other doors attached to the metro station areas which are blocked behind invisible walls, but they do seem to glow when you scan them. One metro station that became of particular interest to me was the metro station just on the opposite side of Crunch Plaza, because this now has an invisible box surrounding it, preventing you from getting to those doors which are evidently open and lead to a void, which is interesting because I said that was never the case in previous versions, so it could be possible that they are prepping this area for future expansion, but again, that's just pure speculation on my part. If you continue along the metro through the Corpo Plaza district, there are other stations which look like they're under development, and they even have NCART announcements playing in the background as you approach these stations, which is pretty interesting. It could be scripted or it could be from the metro station below. As you can see, most of these upper metro stations on the monorail have a fast travel icon on the street level, where there is also a subway, so there could be some interconnectivity here, or it could just be a coincidence, and it also could be those stations were meant to be fully active with a metro car arriving every 5 minutes, as there's a regular pattern here with kind of bus stop looking train stations, just basic looking glass windows, which I assume would have an elevator going to the street level. And then there's other areas which look more industrial, from like the Arasaka areas. But the most interesting one and the most appealing one to me is the station at Vista Del Rey, which is surrounded by LED flashing lights and stops in the ground. And it's evident that this is a proper metro station stop, because the station is right beside the track. But unfortunately you can't see into the station because it's covered by doors, and there's probably going to be nothing on the other side, as it may well be under development. But as you can see here, the station is right beside the track, and it stops to a dead end and then goes around the Pacifica area. So that's pretty interesting. If you want to see the tram at the start of the video and in the subsequent video that follows, all you have to do is go to the tunnel that leads into Northoak and wait a few seconds, be about 10 to 15 meters away from the tunnel entrance, and the tram should appear. You might need to use no clipping or the jetpack mod on the PC to have this activate, because I know for a fact that on the Xbox version this doesn't work. I cannot get the tram to appear whatsoever. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Ryan, who's going to explain some things about the tram system and some of his theories behind that, and then we'll come to our closing statements at the end.
Thanks, Mike. So what's interesting about this northern segment of Monorail that goes from the Northoak hillside over to the Arasaka waterfront area is that it's even less finished or more removed than the other sections of Monorail that we see in the game. And as Mike mentioned, it doesn't continuously travel throughout its circuit like the others. It only appears if you go to its origin point, which is this tunnel here that comes out of the hillside. And if you follow it, it will go through its entire circuit and then come back and go into this tunnel again, which, by the way, this tunnel is just cut off right past where you see a wall in there. So we can only speculate about where it could have gone. But it does make a full continuous circuit out here around the waterfront area and come back to its origin point. Now also you'll notice that it doesn't have anything that really resembles stations like the other areas, even ones with much of their detail removed. There's just at best parts where the track is wider or where sections of a building come out towards the track. But unlike the other parts of the city where there are monorail, it doesn't even have what resembles subway platforms yet, but we can kind of tell where these stops would have likely been at some of these larger buildings that come close to it and have pieces of them that stick out towards it. When we look at the models for the cars themselves, it's interesting to note that there's no animation of any kind on the doors, and the interior is hollow. So it's not like you would have actually stepped into the door if they had stopped at the station. It would have likely functioned much the way the fast travel does in the game, where you do it through a menu. But the cars themselves actually do exist and go past the stations. It just doesn't appear that you're able to climb in through the door.
So I guess all we have to do now is wait to find out if CD Projekt Red are going to release DLC for the transit system and give us more fast travel and views of Night City through the monorail. It's interesting that the footage provided by Ryan shows the train disappearing, but as soon as he gets closer it reappears, and if you wait by the tunnel the train will complete its full circuit and come back. So this train is actually in the engine of the game all the way around the circuit until it disappears in that tunnel and re-emerges. Not only that, but there's also sound associated with the model as well, so you can hear it running along the track as you follow it. So now I tried everything I possibly could to make this train emerge. I dropped in from above using the car glitch, I was walking under the track, I even hovered on vehicles just above the track where Ryan initiated the train, and I couldn't get the train to spawn. So maybe this is some form of memory management, like Ryan was saying. The train will only spawn on PC, and perhaps on the Xbox and PlayStation versions this is just a different coding method to prevent the game from crashing, as we had major problems with that on the early stages of the game. It's my honest belief that CD Projekt Red fully intended for the tram system and the subway system to be fully integrated into the game, but just fell short due to time constraints, and they also have to complete the stations as well. If we look at the NCART subway page on the Night City website, you can see that the domain is under construction, and I understand that means the website, but it could also be pointing in the direction of the completion to the Night City transit system, and they also speak about the Corpo station being under construction as well. If you've enjoyed the content you've seen today on the channel, you can check out further content on YouTube, Twitch, and we also have a Discord server linked below. Thanks to Ryan for providing the PC footage. I would never be able to see that train on the Xbox version. Really appreciate his input as well, and we'll hopefully get some more collaboration videos in the future. My name's Mike, you've been watching Deconstructing the Game, and I'll catch you later.